on as we're going to be jumping towards our first series of the day. It's going to be Cloud9 going up against Team Solo Mid. Now, this is kind of the classic North American matchup right here. However, these are not necessarily the same C9 and TSM that we've seen last season. The performance level has dramatically changed coming into this season.
It really has become the El Clasico of the North American region. C9 versus TSM, two incredibly strong teams. The first and the second usually every regular split. This time it's a little bit different. C9 are continuing their performance, staying at first, but TSM are letting down a little bit. They lost to Rogue last weekend. However, FlashX has mentioned that Bestchuck and Vainglory8 have been stepping it up this week, and they have been practicing more and have been more motivated. So, could they take the series off of C9?
We're going to have to find out. Let's take a look at the TSM roster while you're talking about them. This is obviously an old school squad now that has been around for a long, long time. FlashX, Bestchuck, NA, and Vainglory8. There was discussion about swapping between FlashX and Lucky Bread. We haven't seen Lucky Bread hit the fold just yet. FlashX has been staying on this roster, and we're hoping to see an increased performance out of this team today.
Yeah, I mean, they said yesterday that last week was a wake-up call for them. You know, the first week they lost to Cloud9. You know, that's not normally going to be something that jars you away because it's Cloud9. They're a very, very talented team. But then losing to anyone else in the North American region for a team like Team Solo Mid is that wake-up call. It's that realization of we're not just this dominant team that can just walk all over everyone but Cloud9 any longer. So they need to be focusing up. They need to be playing at their best if they want to get that guaranteed world spot.
Absolutely. I described TSM as an old school team. Cloud9 is an old school team with old school on the roster as well. Old school, Gabe Vizzle and I Love Joseph. These guys have been playing out of their minds. This is honestly one of the best performing teams in the Vainglory8 that we've ever had, never mind just this season.
Yeah, I mean, they have been performing out of their minds and they've been improving on top of it. An incredible thing to say about a team that's been performing at the top, to keep improving and to keep getting better even when you don't have the best competition because you're just that good and you're beating everyone. So to C9's credit, they're doing really well, especially in this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see how they're going to match up in this series specifically. Now, the guy that I want you guys at home to keep your eyes on during this game is going to be Bestchuck NA coming into the series. Now, when we spoke to FlashX yesterday, he was saying that Bestchuck has taken a large part of the drafting responsibility within the team now. He's also the carry, and the carry has been a focus for a great many teams in the current meta. So there's a lot on the shoulders of Bestchuck to make sure that his team can be successful here.
Yeah, and Chuck has been playing fairly prominently still. Even in the TSM defeats, he has still looked pretty strong. But he, like you mentioned, with taking those almost the full responsibility in the draft, that just adds a little bit of extra pressure. You know, because now all of a sudden, even if you play great, if the draft doesn't come out that great, that's something that weighs on your mind throughout the game. You have to be able to just escape that mentally and be able to just focus on gameplay once the draft is over.
You talk about that tasty bacon. I've actually had these same exact experiences because I used to draft for my team too. So it can affect his mental fortitude, mental state, but if his team are backing him up, even if they don't get a great draft, the team tells him, don't worry about it, we can pull it through. That's the type of thing that can help you recover and help you just focus on your game. And TSM, FlashX, and Vainglory8 are definitely the type of players to provide that support to their teammate.
Yeah, a lot about emotional support and working as a team, as a unit. And this is exactly what we were talking to Tyrus earlier on today about. He was saying that this meta is all about being a team, being a unit together. So I'm excited to see what TSM have up their sleeves. Let's start to talk about the draft coming into this one. Obviously, Cloud9, in an interview with Gabe Vizzle on week 1, he was saying that they basically draft what they want at the moment. Up against an opponent like TSM that they've lost to so many times in the past, I feel like this is kind of a grudge match, and you can't afford even a single game loss if you're either of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely want to continue to keep beating Team Solo Mid just because of revenge for last season. I mean, they already got the Unified Championship win. They got the regular season win against them in week 1, but that's not enough. It's these two teams, they're very prideful, and they want to be able to say that they took down the other one. And so I expect a fairly meta-focused draft. Obviously, Old School loves playing this Vox regardless of what the meta is. That's a Cloud9 meta pick, essentially.
The Vox coming out for Cloud9, like you said, it is a meta because Old School is just so incredibly strong on that pick. The land span coming from TSM, that's extremely smart. I was just about to say C9 will probably pick that so that they can also combine it possibly with a Fortress last pick Arden is most likely going to be the captain to come out. If they don't want to go for it, they still have the Finn, they still have the Lyra, or perhaps even pick the Cruel for I Love Joseph and secure it and take it away from Von C. Grace coming out for TSM already though as the first pick. That's going to be obviously a really well-rounded pick that you can put into many different compositions. Rhyme picked up for C9.
Yeah, this Rhyme has been sneaking into the meta to a point where he's starting to become a stable first pick jungler, honestly. There's very little been banned out from the jungle, obviously to an extent Petal, but I feel like that's more of a laner now than it ever is a jungle at the moment. So this Rhyme pick is starting to become much less of a fringe pick and very much just a I'm more than comfortable grabbing this.
Yeah, it's the pick rate on the Rhyme has definitely been rapidly increasing, but how about this draft from Team Solo Mid? Very quick in locking in that Kroll and then the Celeste. So this is very similar to kind of what we've been seeing from a lot of the European teams of having the Grace or, you know, Arden in a lot of them with the Kroll as the front line, the big bruisers, and then the Celeste hyper carry. But Cloud9 once again going to be going with this Fortress Vox duo of just trying to get those stacks built up of the bleed and getting those huge percent health procs, especially onto a target like Kroll.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising to see the Fortress actually still come out in the captain role this time. Vox and C9 are going to have to play really aggressive to try and snowball, because once Von C and TSM get to late game, especially with Celeste, they're going to be able to out team fight C9 because of the range advantage that they have, especially if they can kite away. So it's on C9 to get ahead early on.
Yeah, it's on C9 to be proactive, but that is something that these guys specialize in. I'm very excited to see how this one is going to pan out. Obviously, Best Chuck going to be on that Celeste. We said he's the guy to watch, and he's going to be a huge factor for TSM. Hashtag Vainglory8. Are you a TSM fan? Are you a Cloud9 fan? Let us know. But it's time to jump on into the first game of our first semi-final of North America.
Thank you very much, Munchables. TSM versus Cloud9. These names and the names of the players go way, way back in Vainglory, and it's names we've all come to know and love. They're going to face each other on the fold now. This is going to be a tough one for TSM. Cloud9 looking crazy dominant right now, Denominate.
Oh, they absolutely have been. Obviously winning weeks back-to-back, especially after winning the back-to-back championships as well. This Cloud9 roster has to be feeling pretty confident. You know, they took down TSM already this season, and, you know, unless if Flash is right and Von C and Best Chuck have really stepped up their practice, then I can see C9 still being dominant here.
Well, it's going to be a test for TSM coming into it. They had some close games versus Gangstars, like they were talking about on the desk. And you got to say, Gangstars sitting at 0 points, you'd have thought TSM would kind of walk all over them. Cloud9, their dominant fashion going for this Elder Trient. It will get taken away, but it will get taken away by Cloud9 in the end. And we'll go over to Joseph. Very aggressive early start to the game. But Fortress is actually something we haven't actually seen a lot of, Denominate.
Well, at least not in the captain position. We have seen several teams pull it out in that jungler position several times, often going the tension bow aftershock route. But, you know, Gabe Vizzle, obviously, you know, we've seen him pull out that captain Sky and make it work. So, obviously, Fortress, I think, is well within his realm of capabilities. There's even a time when Old School used to, I was looking at Old School. Gabe Vizzle used to play some Captain Vox, and that was a pretty interesting day and time. But overall, both teams just trying to get their farm up at this point. They both have kind of later game power spikes. Obviously, you know that Vox, once he gets to that second, third item, he'll start taking off. And same with the Celeste, but a little bit more towards that third and fourth item. So I think C9 will come on a little bit sooner, especially with the Fortress giving that extra bleed proc.
Ooh. FlashX went to go to a little bit aggressive there, but Best Chuck actually took the wrong end of a trade. Speaking about trading, in fact, small trade happening into the lower left here. Nice holding over onto two members, Gabe Vizzle and Joseph, trying to cut away from Von C. Those beautiful pillars are coming through. Von C trying to chase Joseph. The smite stacks are there. The Rhyme is going to use the boots to get away. FlashX using his equally. Old School is going to come through. That Holy Nova wasn't enough to save his life, and FlashX will go down for first blood.
Yeah, beautiful rotation out of Old School there, and I think C9 is going to be able to stop Von C. Maybe not. Maybe Von C will pull some fancy footwork.
Oh! He went down. Old School goes down in the lane. Best Chuck and A chases him up with the boot usage, and I think a minion just last hit him there.
Yeah, now Von C's on Gabe Vizzle. Shouldn't be enough to kill him, but, you know, just enough to force him back. And now Von C gonna look to try to get some enemy rotation here, as you know that's what Joseph has been doing. Joseph has been in the TSM jungle taking away that CS, and now Flash in a bad spot again.
Oh man, only level 3 as well against Joseph, who's level 4. They're going to run him down, and the Holy Nova wasn't enough to save his life once more. Gabe Vizzle will secure himself a kill. Cloud9 at the moment, 2 kills up over the 1 of TSM.
Yeah, and you know, Grace not quite as fast as she once was, and that's going to be another Elder Treant now going over to Cloud9 that will go in the pocket of Joseph. Already level 5, working towards level 6. That Valkyrie is going to be online in no time at all. While we look over at Von C, and he's struggling at this point to get to level 5, so we can really see that advantage here in the jungle so far. 1k gold lead for the side of Cloud9. The Poison Shiv has now been picked up by Old School, and I think this is a really good item in the circumstance that they're in. Obviously, we have the Divine Intervention coming out of Grace, the Fountain, as well as Krull has Sustain built into his kit, and as Best Chuck gets to his Eve of Harvest, which he now has online, will also reduce the healing from that as well. So Old School, this first item, Poison Shiv, is really effective into everybody on the roster of TSM right now.
That it is, and with Gabe Vizzle applying those mortal wounds as well from Attack of the Pack, it's going to be fairly hard for them to actually heal up in these team fights. But FlashX, knowing this, can obviously play around it if necessary, but they're going to want to jump on one target, and it will be Best Chuck and A, who has really started to come alive on this Celeste pick over the coming weeks. Beautiful triple Holy Nova there from FlashX, will stop Cloud9 in their tracks for the time being. But with Best Chuck, you know, he's nearing that level 6 mark, and with the Eve of Harvest, it's going to be very easy for him to sustain in the lane, both health and energy. Clearing the waves is going to be no problem for him.
Yeah, definitely not, and obviously will help him sustain here as well. He will be working into probably the Frostburn second item, I would assume. That's going to give him a significant amount of additional damage, as well as give his team a little bit of additional slow, so that utility coming through as well. Von C almost level 6 finally, but Joseph already hitting the level 7 mark. From Hell's Heart will be online soon, but obviously the level advantage that Joseph has right now could be a commanding difference in the next fight. Best Chuck has just hit level 6 as well, so Solar Storm will be available. This is gonna be a very interesting game going forward. The Celeste is good into the Rhyme, but Joseph is so far ahead right now.
That he is. Level 6 mark, like you mentioned. Level 6.5. Von C only just hitting level 6 now, so he's going to rotate the walk towards the lane. You can imagine from Hell's Heart being available, that is. Now with Joseph, he's level 7 now. It's okay, so he was 6.5 a second ago, now he's level 7. Oh wait, no, that was just me misreading, Denominate, no worries. Shadow Glass is actually on the side of him as well, so he's really starting to hit these power spikes fairly early on. Like you said, that early kill not only bolstered his ability to engage the team fights, but his damage is going to be something FlashX and Best Chuck can have to be very careful of. Von C moving towards them, however he does have a power spike of his own in that tension bow, but does get spotted out by a flare.
Yeah, and realistically, Von C is going to be just trying to either shut down Old School or I Love Joseph as these fights goes on. Those Spectral Smite stacks will reduce the outgoing damage of the members of Cloud9. So if he could even alternate in the middle of a fight, you know, if it's set up that way, he might even be able to reduce the damage of Old School and I Love Joseph. Now, in most cases, that's not going to be a plausible cause, but we'll have to see going forward, as Best Chuck is trying to do his best getting this lane pushed up as Cloud9 has rotated, but with the Eve of Harvest first, not really going to have the damage to get a whole lot done here.
This is what I like to see from Joseph. Really aggressive early jungler, has picked himself up an infusion already to nominate. So he's going to pack a punch in these fights. TSM now know this, and they have to play around it as well. Do they wait for the infusion to wear off? But it looks like Von C actually decided, no, we are not. We are going to pick up our own infusion, and then we'll look for a fight instead.
Yeah, and Joseph at level 8 with that infusion, like you mentioned, got the Winter Spire overdriven. That's going to give him a lot more damage, but Gabe Vizzle taking a lot as well.
Gabe Vizzle was going very low, but that beautiful silence came through. Valkyrie as well didn't quite land, but that wait for it from Old School was absolutely beautiful. Von C couldn't get his claws on Gabe Vizzle, and that'll be another kill going over to Cloud9. Double Holy Nova comes through for FlashX, but that turret will end up falling as well.
Yeah, and that is a big advantage now for the side of Cloud9. They have the gold lead, as well as they obviously have that positional advantage that's so much further back now that TSM has to run to safety if they get in that situation. And I'm actually kind of surprised that Cloud9 didn't turn their attention onto the gold mine at that point. But Old School and Joseph are instead just going to go ahead and share some ambience here in the back of the jungle. Again, trying to get these carries both online. Their builds are going to be significantly more expensive than the captains. So, you know, getting the damage online, usually a better trade-off. And Gabe Vizzle, with this Crucible now online, going to be looking to probably help his team block up either that From Hell's Heart or a good Holy Nova coming out of FlashX.
Sharing is caring. Oh, wow. Heliogenesis are starting to rack up, though. Best Chuck is at that level 8 mark, so overdriven Heliogenesis. So that range increase will make Cloud9 just step back and think twice, but not thinking twice. Gabe Vizzle is going in. Beautiful core collapse on Joseph. Wait for it's going to come through. That massive From Hell's Heart's going to boomerang straight back, but it's going to get blocked by Old School. Still trying to move away, but Von C is just going to chase him down, and now it's all up to Joseph in the back line. Gets core collapse, and that'll be Von C with a double kill.
Yeah, but unfortunately for the side of TSM, they find a great fight, but Best Chuck is very low on energy, so they may or may not be able to get this turret. It's going to be close. Well, I guess he has the Phosphorus online, he's going to be able to get it. But, you know, Kroll down here, Von C starting up this gold mine. TSM not looking to give this one up easy, but here comes Gabe Vizzle, and now this is a rough spot for TSM to be in.
Go on, Gabe, do it. Nope, doesn't manage to get it. Von C, very hard to smite away. Oh, get smited away by Von C. It's going to be very easy for him to secure these neutral objectives. Cloud9 now pushing through TSM's jungle. They are going to take that healing camp, but Von C will secure it in the end. And in fact, they're just going to give up a Crystal Sentry here. There's only 2 members of Cloud9, with Joseph only just making it towards them. Gave that one up more or less for free there.
Yeah, it's really rough, and you know, these teams, obviously the 2 teams that are what I would consider at the top, at least when TSM is performing their best. So, you know, Flash mentioned that Chuck and Von C have been practicing more, they've been practicing harder, and obviously Best Chuck taking in some of that responsibility of helping out with the draft as well. They looked really good yesterday. Obviously, Gangstars put up a beautiful performance as well. But TSM, you know, up against Cloud9 right now, you know, we're turret for turret with dead even gold, dead even kills. This is the TSM I hope to see for the rest of this tournament.
And if you look back to their week 1 performance against Cloud9 in the finals, you got to say Cloud9 kind of walked all over TSM. It was a pretty easy feat for them. TSM didn't really seem to know what they were doing, not in terms of meta, but Cloud9 just seemed to have the upper edge of the game, like consistently. It was quite scary. That's pretty scary there as well. A Solar Storm hitting your back line. Goldtool's going to go really low, has to use those boots to get away. That healing tree will actually get taken by him, but FlashX is going to be able to chase him down. Best Chuck on there with a Heliogenesis to finish him off. Cloud9 getting punished now for their over-aggression in TSM's jungle.
Yeah, it was a From Hell's Heart that landed onto Old School, locked him up in that Solar Storm, but the aggression's not
still going to go for it. Joseph is going to have to make his way out of there. They do end up surrendering the Crystal Sentry, it seems. They did want to go for a little fight, but Best Chuck's damage right now, especially with that Frostburn, is just packing a little bit too much of a punch. In fact, it's just going to snipe away Joseph. That just hit him dead on the center of the head. Ends up falling. Old School only just respawning. Does manage to get back to the turret in time to save Gabe Vizzle. But TSM, they take the Crystal Sentry, and this is exactly what Cloud9 did not 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, and this is looking like TSM getting closer and closer to being in a comfortable lead. Best Shock has that clockwork online, so now he'll be able to spam those Helios all the easier. And obviously those core collapses and Solar Storm will be on sooner and sooner. So that is a huge spike now for Best Chuck. Getting into some Pierce for his next partial item is where he's really going to start to get the damage. And he's not that far away from the Broken Myth, realistically. Only about 800 gold at this point, Jaws. So overall, Best Chuck got to be feeling pretty comfortable. He's 3-0-2 right now. His positioning has been immaculate. You know, the kills that did go down for TSM, you know, it was Flash getting caught out a couple in the early game, and losing out on your captain, that's a much better trade-off. So now, Best Chuck working into that Broken Myth, he is going to make it just a world of difference for Joseph to try to be getting onto that back line to lock him down. Those Helios going to rain down. And anytime you really outrange a Rhyme, you're in a good spot. Here they go on the Crystal Sentry, gonna take it for free.
TSM are moving to flank though, and you can see Von C in that item shop brush has picked up an infusion. Gabe Vizzle comes in. There's the from Hells High, is going to get blocked. In fact, Old School is going to get chased out though. Perfect positioning. Vainglory doesn't even hit him. He's just chasing him out. Old School had nowhere to go. The whole of the rest of Cloud9 were just too distracted with trying to take out, I think it was Best Chuck. They end up taking out Joseph as well. Gabe Vizzle now on the run. Von C comes up absolutely massive, isolating the carry and picking him off when he's most vulnerable.
Yeah, and now it's Best Chuck pushing the lane here, and obviously this Celeste at the point in the build he is able to take down this turret incredibly quickly. It's absolutely insane that Chuck was able to survive that last fight, but we saw how separated Old School got, and Von C just chased him down, was able to pick up the fight, the Divine Intervention keeping Best Chuck alive, and TSM looking absolutely amazing right now, taking another Sentry, Jaws. And, you know, all that's left for Best Chuck here is get, you know, a tier 2 boots, as well as work into probably an Aegis, I would think. I mean, Old School is probably the bigger damage threat, but, you know, getting that block online is absolutely huge as well. So, you know, obviously Celeste does not want to get locked up. Can possibly... Oh, hold on, Old School gets hit.
Nice from Hell's Heartland, straight onto Old School. Ends up falling. TSM yet again land another crucial ultimate, and Von C will end up securing the kill. 5-1. 5-1 Denominate, and 4-0-4 on Best Chuck and A. He has not only popped off on Celeste in the later weeks, he's continuing this, and it's kind of scary. He's at that point of the game now with this broken myth. If he gets anywhere near Cloud9, they will just explode. There's not too much resistances at all for them right now. There's no Aegis for Gabe Vizzle, there's no Aegis for Joseph, they've got no defensive itemization whatsoever. Old School with the only real bit of shielding in his inventory. Right now, they're just instantly getting killed off.
Yeah, and now that Flash has that echo for the Divine Intervention, it's going to be all the easier for Best Chuck to survive in these fights. Or if it's Von C taking the damage going in on that front line, obviously Flash will be able to heal him up as well. And that healing, packed with the additional damage reduction that it provides, as well as the barrier that Von C can provide himself, that's a scary front line to be thinking of. And now TSM might be looking for a fight here, Joss.
Might just be. Von C has got that level 2 ultimate now, I believe. Just trying to find it on my screen. Just got a little lost there. I was actually looking at Gabe Vizzle instead, thinking, hang on a minute, that's a different portrait. Von C now looking around. However, they are just going to kite them. See, this is what Von C did earlier. Split up Cloud9. However, Old School is just going to get that blocked completely. Gabe Vizzle actually gets stunned up. Beautiful Holy Nova will just sentence him to death. Best Chuck and A kept alive by the Divine Intervention, but finally goes down to Joseph in the end. Gabe Vizzle secures the kill, but they still got to deal with Von C. Has to use those boots to get away, and that'll be Gabe Vizzle separating from the pack as well. Cloud9, they're still in dire straits. Health bar's blinking, and Von C is just chasing them up.
Yeah, Von C looking for more. Obviously, Joseph very low on health. Will they find it though, Jaws?
Might just find it, although now that Turret is taking a big chunk out of FlashX, they're just chasing FlashX down. Von C determined to make sure he doesn't end up going down. Joseph still following this one up. Gabe Vizzle and himself. Not too much energy, but Von C neither much health. Old School is coming forward as well. Solar Storm is going to hit Gabe Vizzle narrowly, not just one-shotting. Valkyrie has come down as well for Joseph. Does end up missing it slightly. Old School is in the fray. From Hell's Heart does hit. Wait for it comes out. Just missed completely. Vestchuk NA is now in the fray. Cloud9 blinking health bars all around, but Old School, they are going to be able to secure the kill on Von C. Divine Intervention keeps Best Chuck alive for now. No ultimate to find them just yet. No boots to use either. Cloud9 will walk away after losing their carry.
They might be able to walk away. Chuck is looking for more, and if Chuck gets this treant here, there's no reason that he can't get out. And now it's Joseph coming in.
They're just going to jump on Best Chuck. Nice. Holy Nova comes out right at the end. Oh my goodness, FlashX is on fire. Gabe Vizzle's going to get chased down. Frostburn, although the Crystal Sentry is going to be there, does get knocked up in the end, and Gabe Vizzle does end up falling. That's an ace for TSM, and we're Kraken on the board. I know exactly what they're going to start.
Absolutely, and Celeste takes this Kraken so quickly. I don't even think Old School is going to be able to make it in time to contest. And if he does, with the death timers of his team, it would be a very, very detrimental death for him. as Von C obviously coming over to join his team from Hell's Heart is available. So, yep, that's going to be a free Kraken going over to the side of TSM. And with only 3 turrets standing between them and a victory, the Celeste with 4 offensive items and a level 12 crystal infusion, TSM could look to end the game here if they're able to get a kill onto Old School or Joseph early on.
Kraken down, marching down the lane now. Infusions across the board for both sides. All up to Joseph, really, to kind of carry these fights. Old School's been the target more often than not of Von C and Best Chuck. He is 0-7. Not a scoreline you'd really associate, Joseph, with Old School, in all honesty. But TSM really coming back with a vengeance, proving and making sure everybody's aware that they are still a top contender in North America.
Yeah, they definitely are. Choke point turret is down, and now TSM looking to keep the aggression up. Cloud9, however, does have the fountain available to them.
From Hell's Heart does land straight on to Joseph this time. They jump straight onto Best Choke, but he just kept alive by the Divine Interventions. Another one does come through after the Echo is pop, but Gabe Fizzle and Joseph still on top of him. He's still not going down. He ends up actually trading at the end of all of that. FlashX picks up the kill in the end. Old School is going to have to run away from Von C, but they just want to end the game right here, right now. 2 members alive with Old School. Just recalling here that Kraken about only a 3rd HP left. FlashX is in the base, but Von C is going to be here to back him up.
Yeah, Von C coming in looking for that damage, but Flash is so low. I don't think TSM can stay to finish this unless if they get Old School down. Jaws, this is a risky call out of TSM.
A risky call, but it might pay off. I don't know. Divine Intervention's going to come through. They're actually dealing with Old School right now. Valkyrie's going to stun him up as well. That Kraken is still just nomming on that crystal. FlashX now turns his attention, just trying to distract Gabe Vizzle and Joseph. I think this might be a Kraken finish. It is. TSM take game number 1. Cloud9 ignoring the Kraken in the end. Tried to just kill Von C.
Yeah, beautiful plays coming out of TSM there. It was a risky call, but it pays off. And TSM in the driver's seat at the end of that game, taking down Cloud9, their #1 nemesis, Jaws. That's gotta feel good to be a TSM fan.
Revenge from week 1 is exactly what they sought after, and is exactly what they got in game number 1. But game number 2 will come up very shortly. We're going to throw over to the analyst desks, and they're going to break down that game even more.
It turns out TSM were just hibernating for the first 2 weeks, and apparently they're back again now. Cloud9 with a great start to the game, but TSM, once they got a couple of items onto that Celeste, started to really come back into things. And honestly, has to be said, Old School did not have a good game here on the Vox.
Not at all. I mean, that's pretty much the story of this game. Old School just looking flat and really not the level of performance that we expect from him.
He really was getting caught by Cruel, but it's also credit to Von C to find him every single team fight with his ultimates and with his engages, with the weakness stacks being applied on him. Yeah. And Old School, when he was getting jumped on by Cruel, he kited away from his team, and I think that was the biggest issue in team fights for C9.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at some of those fights that happened. This first one, around 8 minutes into the game, this was a double kill that went the way of TSM. This is when they started to take control of the game instead of Cloud9.
Indeed. I mean, the early game went really good for C9 up until this point, which was when Celeste got her level 8. You could see Old School got a little bit out of position, and Von C made sure to abuse it. He immediately switched target focus to him, and Celeste followed up back from the backline with Best Chuck, and they were able to kill him off and go on to Rhyme second. C9 had a great early game. They played the aggressive play style really well, like we know they can, but once TSM got the power spike, it was amazing how they recognized it and they pushed with it. Yeah,
and then just a few minutes later, around 13 minutes, they managed to turn that power spike into an ace off of the back of that last double kill they managed to get, turning this into a pretty hefty lead for themselves.
Yeah, beautiful from Hell's Heart that did get blocked off by Old School, so a nice job blocking it, but again, once Von C gets onto him, he just didn't have the means to get away once Sonic Zoom was already used. And Von C did a great job of waiting for the Sonic Zoom before using Deadman's Rush. You know, both of them having only that one massive gap closer. And Von C just said, okay, now that you've used your dash to get away, I'm going to use mine to close the gap once again and make sure you can't go anywhere.
And we talked about this exact same thing earlier when this composition was being played in Europe. When Cruel manages to get on the backline of the opponent team, it forced C9 to focus Cruel and leave Celeste on the backline, just doing damage freely. And that's why the Celeste Grace with Cruel synergizes so well, because if you chase Celeste, Cruel is going to kill your backline.
Yeah.
If you go on to Cruel, Celeste is just going to kill your entire team. So what do you do in that situation?
I mean, I'd rather lose just the backline than the entire team, but what do I know on that one? Let's take a look at this next fight, because this was one of the most entertaining fights I've seen in Vainglory8. This went on for so long. There were full respawns that came through in this fight.
Yeah, just absolutely ridiculous team fighting. Again, nice blocks being used, but just not quite having enough damage. It looked like Team Solomid were going to be able to just close this one out quickly, but the boots being used by I Love Joseph, getting rid of the way, FlashX, of course, getting, temporarily rooted when you miss with a Holy Nova, and then they go chasing all the way into the base. This was way over aggressive from Vainglory and FlashX, but they were just feeling so confident that they felt like they could just go in underneath this turret, but then all of a sudden they start getting rooted up and they're like, oh no, Old School's coming back up, we have to back away.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about how strong Grace with Echo is late game, and despite the mortal wounds coming both from Fortress and the poison shift that Vox has, Celeste ended up dying after Vox, and that's not what you needed to have from the composition coming from C9. They needed to kill a target before it happened. That's why they ended up losing the team fight. When Vox comes back though, this is what we talked about. Old School kept getting caught with the Cruel ultimates coming from Vainglory, and despite them killing the Cruel, it was a little too late, because Best Chuck had come back to the team fight at that point. And this is where Best Chuck actually baits C9 really well. Watch his movement and his playstyle here, making C9 think that he's making a mistake and that he's out of position, because they don't see FlashX behind him. And FlashX still had Fountain, and the Eve coming also for the sustain for Best Chuck, allowed him to live through the damage coming from Rhyme and clean up the team fight. After they got that team fight, they got the Kraken, and that's how they finished the game.
Yeah, I mean, we can take a look at how they ended the game, but that was just a ridiculous team fight from both sides. Both teams having at least one full respawn coming in, but this was the final push TSM did with the Kraken.
Yeah, and they do lose out on Best Chuck here pretty early in this push, but then Vainglory and FlashX just knowing, we're extremely durable, they're still a Kraken pushing. If they choose to focus the Kraken, we do have enough damage with the Krull and the Grace to finish the game. If they try and focus us, it's going to take so long for them to actually take us down that the Kraken's going to put in a ton of work. So this very spread out fight, again, Vainglory taking Old School out of this team fight entirely, and then eventually he does get the recall, but now they just go back in and end the game.
Yeah, I mean, had Vainglory stayed with Celeste, she would have probably survived, and they would have been able to close out the team fight or the game easily, but he does go for the Vox. At the end of the day, Celeste dies, Vainglory comes back in, and at this point the Kraken is hammering on the turrets, the Kraken is hammering on the Vein Crystal, and there are two choices for C9. Do we focus the team from TSM? Do we focus Best Chuck and FlashX, or do we focus the Kraken? The Grace heal comes up at a crucial time and gives Cruel just enough health to make him survive a little bit longer, so that the Kraken can finish the game and finish the Vein Crystal.
Just long enough as well. And honestly, that fight, that skirmish, was reminiscent of what we saw in Europe earlier today, where we saw these teams trying to push in with the Kraken, trying to force the issue and end the fight there. But this was TSM doing it right, knowing that they don't actually have to fight. All they have to do is delay, and the Kraken will finish the job. Now, we need to get on into the draft for game number 2, because that was an epic show match. And honestly, we've re-shown a lot of that match because it was such an awesome game. I can't wait to get into this next game in the semi-final. TSM, now 1-0 up in the series. It feels like maybe they are still Cloud9's kryptonite somehow.
Yeah, I mean, well, when they're motivated, when they're fully focused, once again, like FlashX said, it was a wake-up call. They realized, we need to get these points if we want to take the world spot. And, you're going to have to take down Cloud9 if you want to get yourself climbing over everyone else and getting to those finals. So, Team Solomid definitely looking a bit refocused. There were some moments where they weren't playing as crisp and clean as we have seen Team Solomid play in the past. But a lot of that is also caused by just how good Cloud9 is playing as well.
TSM are really taking their time with this ban, which is something surprising, because usually when you come into a draft, you know what your first ban is going to be, no matter what the enemy is going to be banning, because you just prepared in advance. Something I want to touch on as that ban comes out, though, the baiting style that came out from TSM and Best Chuck specifically in that game is actually genius. C9 is a very confident team, and they play very aggressive when they see someone make a mistake. So you try to use that against them. You try to use their strength as their weakness. And Best Chuck baiting them to think that he is caught out of position. He did it multiple times, actually. Not only that, one time, multiple team fights, forcing C9 or making C9 think that they have an opportunity, and instead they just run into an ambush.
Absolutely. We do have a small bug in the draft. We should be able to get this restarted very quickly and should be able to get everything back underway. So Cloud9 once again going to reban that Catherine, and hopefully TSM will actually be able to ban something this time.
Yeah, usually when the timer times out on your first ban, it's because the team just wasn't able to get connected to the draft. So now that the ban has come through, everything is sorted, and it is going to be that Petal first pick for Cloud9. It was banned first by Team Solo Mid in Game 1. And Cloud9 say, we feel like this is a strong enough pick that no matter what is available, we can beat it.
C9 is a team that's very willing to first pick their carry, and they tend to go for either the Vox or the Petal, just whatever is the strongest weapon power carry in the update.
Oh boy.
TSM, however, they first banned it the first game, like you said. This time they didn't, so they must have expected it, and they must have a plan for it. The Adagio comes out. This is a flex. It can either go to the lane with Best Chuck, or it can go to FlashX. It will most likely be on Best Chuck just because it's one of his best heroes.
And also bear in mind that it was Cloud9 that banned the Adagio last game, so Team Solo Mid getting to take that for themselves this time around. The Lance banned away once more. That's going to be almost permanently banned against Gabe Visible because he's just so strong with it. And then Lyra being banned away. That's Team Solo Mid is one of the few teams that has been focusing on the Lyra.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Lyra doesn't go through or doesn't get banned, TSM would have probably picked it up. Now they have the opportunity to pick Cruel, however, and Adagio Cruel have pretty good synergy just because of how much early aggression they can output, especially since they're both CP and weapon power. Cruel usually goes weapon power. Multiple options for TSM here. It's just going to be about how they want to counter this Petal pick that we have been seeing for multiple weeks.
Yeah, it's just a question of are they going to be willing to pick up the Cruel into the Petal, because while yes, Cloud9 has been running that as the weapon power Petal in the lane, there is still the chance that they run it down into the jungle with I Love Joseph to counter the Cruel if it comes through. So it is going to be the Rhyme pick instead for Von C. This is another pick that he's been playing a lot. One of his 3 most played heroes. I believe it's actually been his most played hero thus far this season. So it's still something that they are very comfortable with on the side of Team Solo Mid.
So while this can still be a double CP, I'm going to go ahead and make a very bold prediction and say the last pick is going to be Jewel for TSM. They're going to play Jewel, Rhyme with Adagio Captain to have a really strong early game aggressive composition and just try to snowball Cloud9. Especially since against Petal, Petal doesn't get going until later on when she hits her level 12 and gets a couple of tornado triggers. I would love to see that composition come out from TSM.
I mean, if you can land a root with the Rhyme and then have Jewel jump in, 1 or 2 Thunder Strikes will kill a Petal. We saw earlier today how strong the Baron was against the Petal of just being able to blow her up in an instant. And so this Finn pick is actually just going to be used to try and be that anti-burst. That's why, that's one of the Finn's greatest strengths is the anti-burst potential of being able to use the Polite Company to provide that fortified health and allow someone to stay alive just that little bit longer. Samuel going to round out the composition, so it is definitely going to be that weapon Petal for Cloud9 and Team Solo Mid. This is, now the Jewel doesn't quite look as appealing, but it is definitely still something they could go for. It is going to be an Ardent instead, though.
It is going to be an Ardent, and they can still go either the double CP that I mentioned, or they could go weapon power Rhyme. I'm honestly not sure what they're going to be preferring, because that is still a Von C in the jungle. He does crazy things.
I mean, we saw weapon power Adagio it was either yesterday or last weekend, so that's also an option. It's not something that we've seen a whole lot out of specifically TSM, but definitely could be on the cards for these teams.
Yeah, it absolutely could be, but I feel like Team Solo Mid, if they're going to have like the weirder build path, it's going to be coming out of Von C in the jungle. So I would anticipate if one of these two is weapon power, it would be Von C. Though they may not do it at all. They may just run with the double crystal.
The Adagio weapon power can be the key to dealing with Petal in lane, just because he has a long range too. And then if he's weapon power, his auto attacks are going to be hurting her and bursting her down, especially since she's so squishy. It's just going to be on TSM to try and get ahead, especially since they're going up against the Finn.
All right, we'll see if they can get ahead in this one. It was down to Cloud9 to take the early advantage last time. Now it's up to TSM. Hashtag Vainglory8. Get in touch on Twitter. Let us know who you're supporting. It's time to get back into the game, though. It's time to jump into Game 2 of our Grand Final. of our semi-final.
Thank you very much, guys. Cloud9 versus TSM. TSM with the game up right now, and Cloud9 not looking as dominant as they have been over the last few weeks, and TSM really stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, TSM been doing a great job, actually, in that first game. They looked absolutely amazing, and you know, they did take that pedal pick off the first time around, though, and now that Old School has that in his hands. We've seen how dominant he can be with it, and it's kind of a risky call, if you ask me. I see Best Chuck with the double weapon blade here on Adagio. I'm not sure if that's the answer to countering that weapon pedal.
Well, I think we talked about this yesterday, specifically. Weapon power everything. Let's go. It's all coming back now. We got weapon power pedal, Best Chuck's on the weapon power Adagio this time around. I'm excited. I honestly am. It's going to be a clash of heads, and I did think they said on the desk as well. You know, maybe Old School, especially with this weapon power pedal, she has a lot of innate range on this and the ability to engage as Cloud9. They're not going to be want to be doing that so much. They're going to have to wait for TSM to go into that engagement. They've got this rhyme that they want to just shoot into Cloud9's back line. They've got to stay safe for as long as possible. But Best Chuck, he is on this Adagio, and it's pretty terrifying in all honesty.
Yeah, we saw Rogue pull it out the other day. Didn't quite work out for them, but maybe TSM has been practicing a little bit more. Again, it is a hero that has been played weapon before and actually was meta as a weapon power hero at one point. So now it is going to see if TSM's able to find Joseph here. Boots out, though.
Use the boots to make his escape. FlashX and Vonsi still starting up that Elder Treant. Joseph still wants a little slice of the action, however. Drifting Dark will find it. Vonsi ends up taking that Elder Treant. Good for him, though, at least, because he needs that health regen, that is for sure. FlashX using that Vanguard. They are chasing him down. Old School's going to rotate from the lane as well. Joseph taking a large beating here. Old School is going to meet him. Gave Vizzle with the Flight Company for that fortified HP. Have TSM overstepped. Two-man Quibble, and FlashX doing a fair chunk of damage. I think Vonsi is actually just going to settle for this Treant here to just heal himself up.
Yeah, definitely looking for it, and now it is Best Chuck that is rotated over, but TSM's very hurt, Jaws, so they gotta be careful. And looks like everybody's just gonna get back to their farming at this point.
It looks to be that way, and with the Old School, you know, picking up those weapon blades. Now, with Best Chuck having the weapon blades as well, who really spikes earlier in this matchup?
I have to assume it's the Adagio with the, obviously those empowered attacks with his Agent of Wrath. But as the game goes on and Petal gets more weapon power under her belt, that is a % of weapon power that she will get off of the trampoline buff. And that is absolutely huge for Petal.
Absolutely massive, and Old School's taking a fair chunk of damage now, as Best Chuck did end up leveling up to level 4. Their level advantage is now depleted completely, as Old School just did get some ambient XP. But Vonsi still looking to work Joseph in this jungle. Level 5 to level 3. Treant almost rooting him up, but just making sure he knows his place at the moment. TSM bringing new fire to the fold, with Best Chuck being rather safe up in that laning phase. Up in that lane, Vonsi and FlashX are very, very welcome in TSM's jungle, and looks like they just want to keep pressuring their elite a little bit more.
Definitely looking to do so, and this is going to be interesting fights going through later on in the game. Obviously, the weapon pedal is something we've seen several teams pull out with really good performance. The Adagio, we haven't seen the same. Is this a counter that TSM has put together? Is this something reliable enough to deal with that weapon pedal? That's going to be the question going forward. Obviously, the Samuel paired up as well here for the side of Cloud9, able to get a lot of splash damage down onto Vonsi and FlashX. So that could be a huge spike as well as Joseph gets to that broken myth point.
Well, 2 Sorrow Blades now finished, 1 for Best Chuck, 1 for Old School. Vonsi has hit that 6 mark, so has got Valkyrie available. It might just want to look for a rotation towards the lane. Look how under-leveled Joseph is. Vonsi making his way forward. Old School is going to be there as well. Joseph's going to be the target, though. Instantly deleted, however. Vizzle is just going to get chased out as well. Valkyrie comes down to slow him up, but Vonsi's taking a little bit too much damage from the turrets. Ends up backing off, but that'll be first blood to TSM.
Yeah, first blood going over to TSM. Getting that bounty is absolutely huge for them as well. And it's actually Old School taking a bit of damage here in the lane too. Jaws, can TSM push more off of this? Here comes I Love Joseph, though.
Yeah, it's at level 6 though. With Old School just chugging that flask, he'll be up in no time. However, FlashX and BestChuck unrelenting in their pressure in the lane, just making sure he can't do all too much. Game Visual is fairly low as well, remember. BestChuck's on A's damage is going to chunk through this turret rather rapidly. Shatter Glass now finished for Von C, so you can imagine he'll want to make his way towards the lane again. 30 seconds on the ultimate. That's a short time indeed, especially when you got BestChuck just pushing on this tier 1 turret here.
Yeah, and they might be looking to get some good damage down, but Joseph is coming back up again. Jaws, these teams have been going back and forth, but it is TSM with the first blood and the first turret. And Weapon Adagio seems to be working so far. Again, I do think it spikes a little bit earlier, which does make it a little bit easier for them, as well as, again, BestChuck, revered as one of the best laners for North America, and, really showing it right now.
Yeah, that he is. Old School, however, has picked up the infusion there, Denominate. So he really wants to start fighting, and he wants to fight rather soon. Joseph's just hit that level 6 mark, has got the Oblivion, but FlashX will be on his way as well, about halfway there at the moment. Now, what does Von C do? What is his plan here? Because he's done a fantastic job before of just getting these flanks off. In fact, he's fighting Old School there. Half his HP already gone. A Quibble will slow him up. He will come through there with FlashX. There's the Valkyrie. It is going to come down. Strikes Old School. BestChuck's going to move his way forward. But it doesn't matter because Old School's already dead. The Oblivion couldn't quite save him. Didn't even put anybody to sleep. TSM find another kill, and they're going to get the gold miner as well.
Yeah, TSM looking very dominant right now, Jaws. And, again, this Weapon Adagio really showing its stuff right now. That Sorrow Blade start is a little different than we've seen on, Rogue's performance the other day. But now looking to get into some critical damage as well. Obviously, BestChuck going to be spiking large hits onto the low defense of I Love Joseph and Old School. And, as the game gets later on, Old School obviously going to be looking to do the same to the side of TSM. But, that additional barrier that Rhyme can provide himself, as well as Arden, I'm a little concerned on, just how long this TSM aggression can hold out.
And what's fairly scary as well, when FlashX does use that gauntlet, Von C has got an easy placement for a Valkyrie. It's going to be incredibly hard for Gabe Visual, Old School, and Joseph if they are caught up. Well, apart from the Finn, obviously, because he does resist other stuns and whatnot. But the main carries of Cloud9, Old School and Joseph, if they get locked up, they're going to get locked up for days. Von C is now making his way towards the lane. Old School has got trampoline, but Von C just determined to get this Valkyrie hit. Is going to get blocked quite instantaneously. Same with that force to court. Gabe Visual tried to make something work, but TSM only blowing that one ult for the moment is going to be an advantage at least for another 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, definitely looking for it, but it's a interesting composition put together on both sides. So the late game portion is going to come down to how Old School uses his trampoline. If he commits too forward, he can put himself in a dangerous position. Here we go, Jazz.
Now, speaking about putting himself in a dangerous position, this is exactly what Old School did. Von C on the side, the gauntlet comes down, they're going to stun one, not two. Old School caught up and locked down. See you later. UFO goes back to its home planet, TSM. They're going to push on to this turret. Oblivion used to just sleep the minions and sleep Von C, but with that weapon power Adagio, they're going to chunk down that with ease.
Yes, they are, and TSM is really strutting their stuff right now, taking a huge lead here, Jaws, so early. And, this is the TSM we've expected to see. We expected, after TSM lost at the Unified Championship, we really expected them to come into this season on their A game, every single game, fighting for that Worlds ticket. And that just hadn't been the case up until this weekend. This weekend, they have looked absolutely amazing. Maybe struggling a little bit in their first game against Gangstars, but were able to pull it together in game number 2 with a convincing lead. And, now they're looking pretty good over Cloud9 right now as well.
Well, TSM had a perfect game against Gangstars as well. Let's not forget. Old School's in a little trouble. Valkyrie comes down. He is going to be able to block it there, but look at the positioning from Best Chuck in the front line. Old School falls yet again, and now it is Jotis' turn to send to punch that ticket back to base. Crystal Century will join in. Von C will pick up the kill. Best Chuck's trying to chase Gabe Fizzle away. Gold Miner's looking pretty chunky right now, pretty stuffed full of gold, and that'll be on TSM's to-do list.
Yeah, and again, this is TSM literally controlling every aspect of the game at this point. They're up in turrets, they're up in kills, they're up in additional jungle objective takes, as well as they've done a good job taking away farm from the enemy jungle every time they get the chance to rotate, and that is going to put them very comfortable in their builds at this point. The Adagio build is looking pretty scary at this point in the game in comparison to the Petal. But, only time will tell, Jaws. We're still waiting on I Love Joseph to get that, second and third item spike, whereas Von C himself is already on that second item as well. So, a bit ahead in all aspects right now for TSM.
Well, look at Best Chuck's build. He's got a Bone Sword, Tornado Trigger, Sorrow Blade. Then you look at Old School. He's only just picked up that Tornado Trigger and has only got the Sorrow Blade to his name as well. This is looking very, very much a TSM favorite game yet again. I mean, this is a team that has struggled a little bit, and Gangstars did give them a run for their money yesterday in game number 1. TSM quickly patched that and did perfect game them. But right now, Cloud9 not looking their usual selves. Von C going for another flank here. We'll find Joseph and Old School. I got a feeling I know who that target is though. Old School does dodge out of the Valkyrie. Gauntlet comes down. Joseph caught up in it. He is going to be able to get away with that fountain usage from Gabe Fizzle for the time being. FlashX with no echo at the moment. Can't lay down another Gauntlet, but TSM, I think they're going to be happy with that exchange.
Oh, you have to be happy if you're in that exchange. You're continuing your dominance at this point, and they're not even done with the aggression at this point. Josh, here we go.
Oblivion's going to come out. TSM do end up blocking it, so they will just be able to march forward. Old School has to exit the fight already, leaving the lumbering Finn to his own defenses. Ends up falling. That's his first death on the board. TSM now going to take that Crystal Sentry away.
Yeah, and again, TSM is really pushing their advantage while they have it. We talked about it earlier, that the Adagio just spikes a little bit sooner than the Petal. Petal obviously requiring both gold and levels to get her strong point of damage down. And, the Adagio just takes off a little bit sooner, and TSM has been using that to their advantage nonstop. Now that the Broken Myth is online for I Love Joseph, they definitely can look to find more fights. They can look to find better fights, as he will be able to ramp up his damage. But, again, it is Old School right now struggling to get that third item online this late in the game.
Here we are, 13 minutes. You say late in the game. We are 13 minutes in. Kraken hasn't spawned yet. And, it might be late game for TSM because their item spikes are definitely proving it.
Well, this is just usually the point. Joseph's usually working into his fourth item at this point, and that's not the case. So maybe it's not late in the game so much to say as it's a little bit behind his average at this point, at least so it would seem. And TSM starting up another gold mine here, gonna take it down incredibly quickly, and they are not looking to let up here. They want to Cloud9 down in a 2-0 fashion, convince the rest of the world watching today that they are back.
Well, right now they are on their way to another perfect game. If they can keep this up. Look at the map as well. And I gotta say, I know a lot of people do reference it, but it looks like the map has chickenpox. There are so many scout traps for TSM right now. It is actually terrifying. There is no way C9 can enter their own jungle, it seems, without being spotted by a trap. Crystal Sentry will go down in the end. 1 life remaining on that. TSM looking for a small engage. Just happy, just forcing Cloud9 back, taking control of the lane. 1 minute to go. And we have Kraken unleashing soon.
Yeah, we do. And, in TSM's shoes right now, as that Kraken gets ready to come online, they can really look to force one fight, but they do have to be careful. That second Tornado Trigger is online and ready to go for Old School, and this is really where that Petal starts to spike. Obviously we are a bit ahead on Best Chuck right now. He will be providing a bit of damage as well, but, obviously Old School, if he's able to find 1 kill onto Best Chuck, Cloud9 can turn this game around in a heartbeat. But TSM, if they continue to find the fights, if they continue to keep up the beautiful positioning they have, then it's going to be difficult for Cloud9 to get anything off of it.
Well, you spoke about the lack of items there for Old School. It's because he's hardly had any farm from the lane. He's hardly had any farm from the jungle as well. TSM now are just going to start up this Kraken pretty much for free. There is nothing Cloud9 can do right now. Look how quickly it is going down with Von C and Best Jug's damage. It's going to get unleashed. 15 minutes in, TSM still on their way to a perfect game here. Map is covered with scout traps. Cloud9 cannot walk anywhere, it seems, around that Kraken before they set one off. TSM looking to push into the base now.
Yeah, and Von C obviously coming up into the lane here, trying to force that minion wave up so that Cloud9 has to come out to deal with it so that TSM can't get free damage on the turret. And now with the Kraken coming down, this is a beautiful spot for TSM to be in, Jaws. And if they find a kill or two here, they can look to end the game. Hopefully they don't make as risky of a call as game number 1, but it paid off for him then. Maybe it'll pay off for him again.
Kraken's going to march on the base. The base is now broken wide open. TSM goes straight in. Gauntlet comes down, stunning up 2 members. Von C only just managing to survive, though, at the end of that one. Old School disappears right in front of your very eyes, and now it's only up to Joseph and Gabe Vizzle trying to combat TSM's aggression. Kraken still at half HP here. FlashX, no cooldowns really remaining, but I'm not sure it's going to matter. TSM won a 2-0 Cloud9 in a perfect fashion. However, FlashX does fall, ruin the perfect game. There's Von C, almost falls. Best Chuck will end up finishing the game 2-0 to TSM.
Jaws, this is not what I think anybody expected today. TSM comes back, answers their poor performance from the past couple weeks, and brings their A game to Cloud9 today, takes them down, that #1 seed right now in North America, and TSM with a very low kill game, 7-1, were able to come through and find a victory here in 2-0 fashion.
Anybody was going to do it, it was going to be TSM. They take it 2-0, but to break down that series a little bit more, we've got the analysts on the desk.
I don't know what I just witnessed. Versus last week, versus literally yesterday, this seems like a totally different Cloud9 and a totally different TSM. Phenomenal performance. Honestly, we usually talk about team fighting. We usually talk about micro plays, but this game was all about the macro from TSM. They had complete control of the map. They didn't even need to fight because everything was under their control.
Yeah, I mean, and even the vision control that they had, they didn't even need that much vision control, because you saw there were so many scout traps that were just in the same brush, just to make sure that, even if they walk through and accidentally pop one of those, there's still another trap there to pop. And there was, I counted at the end, 19 scout traps on the fold at the end of the game. That's almost 2,000 gold invested in scout traps, and all of it was just purely bought. Like, there was no contraption or anything like that. It was just 2,000 gold of scout traps on the map, let alone how many he had bought earlier in the game that were popped. It was incredible.
I mean, it's something that we actually see come out from FlashX even when TSM are losing. His vision control is usually very well, and it's because he focuses on it unlike any other captain, honestly, that plays Vainglory both in Europe and NA. And it creates such an advantage for TSM because it allows any opponent, well, it allows them to see any other opponent whenever they're trying to come back into the game. They know exactly what they're trying to do, and they know where they're going. They have a lot of information that they're working off of.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do without TSM knowing about it at that stage. Let's take a look at some of the moments from that game. We'll start off way back in the early game, around 10 minutes on into this game. TSM already had 3 kills.
I mean, early game is the perfect place to start because TSM needed to play aggressive early game and get leads this time. Yet last game it was C9 who needed to do that. This time it was TSM. And they did it incredibly well. Rhyme, this is the first time I see a Rhyme use the fast clear speed to its greatest extent. Von C was already 2 levels ahead of I Love Joseph by the time he got to level 7, and it's just incredible focus on objectives, which were the jungle camps at that point.
And at the same time, you have to once again look at Old School a little bit here. I mean, in that last replay, you saw trampolines into the middle of Team Solo Mid. Like, that's just not where you want to be as your team's carry that early in the game, especially. And it's just, there's just some of the decision making from Cloud9 was just very strange and very unlike what we normally see from Cloud9. And you have to wonder how much of that was just, them, again, not really having to focus as hard because they already have that world spot and, taking things a little bit easy, versus how much of that was just Team Solo Mid putting immense pressure on. Because like you said, they already had 3 kills at that point too. So maybe it's, Joseph or Old School thinking, I need to make a play in order to get control of this early game back.
Honestly, I feel like the biggest difference in this series was TSM as opposed to Cloud9. I don't feel like Cloud9 as a team looked particularly bad, but TSM, I just don't know how this evolution happens like that overnight. It seems there must be something in the water, perhaps. Let's take a look at the end of that game. As TSM, I mean, they didn't get that many kills. They didn't need to. They were 6-0 up and then pushing with a Kraken.
They just snowballed the game slowly and steadily. They focused objectives. They took crystal miners, sentries, gold miners, and jungle objectives and turrets. And then when you can see right here how fast Petal dies to that Adagio open power. The problem with everyone else that have been trying to counter Petal is that when you pick a hero such as Vox or Jewel or whoever you want to pick, it's either too short of a range, or when you go for Kestrel, it's hard to get your damage onto the Petal because it's a skill shot. But with Adagio open power, you both have the long range and you have no skill shots. It's just auto attacks that go onto Petal and just burst her down completely.
And the lack of kills is just a sign for how well Team Solo Mid is doing. This is something that happens all the time when they are at the top of their game. They're almost boring games in a way because they're not going for these kills. It's all focused on the macro. So for an analyst, I love seeing games like that. But for someone a viewers just wants to see these team fights, wants to see these players going at it, you're not going to get that action because Team Solo Mid just controls the game in such a way that if they force their opponents to not really be able to have a move that they can make to get back into the game.
Absolutely. And speaking of TSM, we have FlashX on the line ready for an interview. So first of all, congratulations on your victory over Cloud9. And my first question has to be, what happened? You guys have just leveled up about 10 times over the space of 24 hours.
Yeah, no, that was good. We played much better than what we played yesterday. I thought that even though we did beat Gangstars, our performance wasn't really there, but we definitely stepped it up a notch. I said it to the guys on our last scrim Friday that those are probably our best scrims all autumn, and I'm glad we were finally able to kind of put it together against Cloud9.
Now, I want to ask a little bit as well about, we've just been talking on the desk about the amount of scout traps you guys have been using. Obviously, you're investing very heavily in terms of in-game gold onto that vision control and making sure that you have eyes on literally every part of the map. Is that a key part to your current strategy to make sure that your opponents can't do anything without your knowledge?
I wouldn't really say it's a key part of our strategy, and we really only do it when we know, when we kind of have control of the game. We don't want to kind of get caught off guard by a fin pull through the wall that we don't really have vision on at any point in time. So once we know we have that control and we have the momentum and we're controlling the tempo, we definitely make sure that there's really no way, as long as we don't make any other mistakes, for the opponent to come back into the game.
And FlashX, I gotta ask, the Petal pick, we all know that its weakness is both the early game and her squishiness. The weapon power Adagio that you guys played abuses that weakness perfectly. How did you guys come up with it?
That would be a question you'd have to ask Chuck. I don't really know where Chuck is right now, unfortunately. He ran upstairs. But no, it's definitely something that we practiced. It works very, very well. I think it was Rogue try and play it yesterday. I don't think they actually were able to pull out the victory, but Chuck's Adagio is pretty fire, and he definitely proved it in that game right there.
Absolutely, taking on Old School himself as well. Thank you very much for the interview, FlashX, and congratulations on your victory. We will see you a little bit later on into the final. And FlashX also going to be able to grab the MVP for that one. He was definitely, especially in that second game, I think the captain is the most important role in terms of making sure you can control the map in terms of macro. Also did